Did you know there are techniques that can wake up a fruit tree that doesn't want to bear fruit? Well, today I'm going to show you three methods that have been used for many, many years and that you probably didn't know about. Take a look at this lemon tree. For how small it is, just look at how loaded it is. And now look at this grapefruit tree. It's just crazy. We've used techniques like the ones you're about to see today on these trees. And the best part is, you'll be able to do them with things you probably already have at home. They're super quick to do, and pretty much anyone can put them into practice. Of course, I'm going to show you how to do it the right way, so that fruit tree that wasn't producing will start to bloom like never before. So without further ado, let's get started right now with the first method. To do this, we're just going to need a piece of wire about 4 inches long, or in other words, about 10 centimeters. The first thing is to choose a branch that's nice and thick and completely healthy. Once you've picked it, we're going to make a small hole through it from side to side using a drill or a screwdriver with a thin drill bit attached. This technique is done exclusively on the branches, never on the main trunk. In this case, I'm using a small fruit tree we have in a pot, and we already applied the same method to it a few years ago. As you can see, right now it's completely loaded with fruit, so it really wouldn't need to have this done again. I'm only going to do it on one of the branches to show you exactly how it's done. Once the hole is made, we take the piece of wire and insert it through the hole we made. Then we join both ends together, forming a small ring or hoop. That ring is exactly what gives this method its name, the hoop method. And the hoop isn't there by accident. Its purpose is to prevent the wire from coming out due to the wind, the natural movement of the branch, or simply over time. This way, the tree always has that little stimulus reminding it that it needs to start working. All right, once it's in place, it's done. You don't need to tighten it, you don't need to strangle the branch, or try to apply pressure. We simply leave it in place and allow the tree to regenerate that area and heal naturally. And what actually happens when we do this? By piercing the branch, we're causing a small, localized injury that the tree immediately detects. That disturbance triggers a physiological survival response and makes the plant allocate more resources to try and reproduce. And now all that's left is to wait. From this point on, the tree will do its job. And if you followed all the steps just as I showed you, you're going to see a bloom like never before and a surprising amount of fruit. But wait, because the next method is even simpler. You don't need drills, drill bits, or even wire, and yet it's still going to give you amazing results. The first thing is to choose a healthy branch that has a good thickness. Once you've found it, we're going to tie a rope near the tip of that branch and attach a small weight to the other end. That weight can be a bag filled with sand, soil, or any other material you have at home. The important thing is that it applies a constant downward force, but always gradually and without breaking the branch. With that small weight, we're going to slightly bend the branch and keep a constant tension on it. There's no need to bend it too much. In fact, the more natural the curve looks, the better. And what do we achieve with this? By changing the natural position of the branch and keeping that tension for a while, the tree interprets it as a significant change and responds by activating mechanisms related to flowering and reproduction. It's a very old technique that has been used for generations precisely to wake up those trees that only want to grow, put out leaves, and produce new branches, but seem to have forgotten how to bear fruit. Plus, it has a huge advantage over other methods. We're not making holes, we're not making cuts, and we're not directly damaging the branch either. We're simply taking advantage of the tree's own physiology to send it a little signal that it's time to start producing. Of course, you shouldn't overdo it with the weight either. If you see that the branch is bending too much or is about to break, immediately reduce the load. We're not trying to push it to the limit here, but rather to keep a gentle and steady tension. And now all that's left is to wait. The tree usually responds very quickly to this kind of stimulus, so it's important to apply these techniques about a month before the flowering season. Anyway, if you don't know when to do it in your area, let me know down below in the comments. Tell me where you're watching from and which fruit tree you're going to try it with, and I'll tell you the best time to put it into practice. Now let's move on to the third method, and this is probably the most well-known of all, although it's also the one most people get wrong out of lack of knowledge. It's called girdling. And before I show you how to do it, I want you to remember something very important. This method is always done on the branches, never on the main trunk. To do this, we're going to need a knife, a box cutter, or any cutting tool that's nice and sharp. The first thing is to choose a healthy branch with a good thickness. Once you've chosen it, we're going to make two circular cuts all the way around the branch, spaced about a quarter of an inch apart, or in other words, about 5 millimeters. And when those two cuts are done, simply remove the bark that's between them. And here's the key to the whole method. You don't need to go deep. You don't need to scrape the wood or touch the cambium. All we're removing is the bark. If you go too deep, you could damage the branch and end up with the exact opposite effect of what we're aiming for. So what happens when we do this? By removing that small ring of bark, we're partially interrupting the flow of elaborated sap, which is what carries sugars and energy from the leaves to the rest of the tree. As a result, all that energy starts to build up above the ring, and the tree uses it to do what matters most to it at that moment: reproduce. In other words, we're concentrating resources exactly where we want more flowers to appear, and later more fruit. And the best part is that once the ring is made, you don't need to use any healing paste, cover the wound, or apply any product at all. You simply leave it as it is, and the tree itself will start to heal while it responds to the stimulus. Of course, just like with the previous methods, you don't need to do this on every branch. If the tree isn't producing anything, applying it to about half of the main branches is usually more than enough. We're not trying to punish it, but to wake it up. Now, all that's left is to wait. Just like with the three methods I've shown you, after a few weeks, you'll start to notice big changes in your fruit trees. Flower buds will start to appear where there weren't any before, and little by little, you'll see how the tree begins to wake up. And by the way, don't forget to let me know in the comments below which tree you're going to try on and where you're watching from, because that way I can tell you the best time to do it in your area and try to help you personally. And if you like this video or found it helpful, give it a thumbs up. Share it with someone who loves fruit trees as much as you do. If these techniques change the way you look at your garden and help your trees flourish, please subscribe and like the channel. We are uncovering the secrets of nature that have been passed down through generations. Let's grow the future together. The next treasure of gardening wisdom will be revealed soon.